infect, +1/+1 counters, shield counters, charge counters. There's so much you could do with proliferate. People see all of it coming though, or at least they expect all of it. What do they not expect? Group Hug. Hello, this is Joe from Nerd in Korea. I'm doing another deck check-in here. This time, looking at a different deck, an Atraxa Group Hug deck. This is one no one's going to see it coming. They're going to look at the commander and say, oh, Atraxa, it's a proliferate deck, it does all of this, I expect to see this thing coming, and then you're just not going to cast the commander the whole game and you're going to win. You're going to be like, wait, what happened? So anyway, if you can like, comment, and hit subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. We're still a tiny channel. Anyway, let's get to it. Alright, so this is Atraxa. We're doing a group hug theme one. It's a really interesting combination. I really like the way this one's built. I wanted to do an Atraxa for the witch color, but doing a budget deck doesn't really work with a commander that costs like over 17 bucks. So doing it on this, my deck review, the deck check-in, is I think a lot better. So yeah, we are reviewing decks. This is our witch deck of the color challenge. Once again, that's 4 color, no red, is called Witch, not Witch Kindred. Very confusing, but anyway. So a group hug deck, which I've not covered one of these before. So kind of like, I think this may be one of the most popular commanders I've ever covered, and a group hug version, which is very unusual for her, so I'm loving this. Yeah, group hug is an interesting theme. Pulling out the win with without any tactical aggression. Kill him with kindness. It's all about killing him with kindness. The color challenge. So this is a big part of like almost getting near the end of the color challenge for me. Again, between these episodes where I look at decks and my budget decks, I have done almost everything now. So we're going to look at what is all completed. Yeah, oh boy. Which is our third last one. So we've got Abzan and Colorless left. Colorless, I've already got a Paragon Dynamo budget deck started, and Abzan, I'm not sure if I'm going to do a budget deck. I kind of want to build Abzan because I think it is the strongest overall color combination. I really like Orzhov in general, plus green. So it's got Orzhov and Golgari is probably my second. So it's got my first and second color combinations in there, so that's really nice. Anyway, the primary mechanic. Atraxa is a very popular commander among 4 color commanders. I would consider her near, if not at the top. Again, she might actually be the most popular 4 color commander. It's kind of tough to say, but she is way up there for sure. Proliferating is a very simple and convenient thing to build around. Proliferation is so strong. It just has like a single mechanic. If you want to like have a deck built around something, it's one of the strongest, I think. It's just so open-ended as well. You can do counters, or all the different kinds of counters. You can do +1/+1 shield counters. You can do infect. You can do minus counters. The options are crazy. This deck actually does not rely on proliferate a lot, and may be able to win without ever bringing out the commander. So that's one thing that the person who made it said. He left a very helpful little note. I will put his primer, or the whole thing, in the description with the primer. And in the primer, it does say that he actually often never even has to cast the commander. I think that's a very clever thing with this deck. Having a commander that is one of those like everyone's scared of commanders, and then having a deck that just doesn't care if it's there or not. Really nice combination. I think it's kind of funny. So this is Atraxa. Praetor's Voice. I'm trying to say 2 words at the same time. Does not work. The deck price is $225, so it's just quite a bit more expensive than the ones I usually cover, but frankly, for a commander deck, still not that expensive. I did try to make a budget version, but even by the time I was done cutting out a whole bunch of things to get it under $100, it was already like almost not the same deck. And what I could put back in to like kind of fill the holes there would not really be the same strategy. I would have ended up with a whole different deck basically. Anyway, I have posted a link to the deck list on moxfield.com in the description. So if you want to check this out, you can check it out in the description there. This deck was made by someone I haven't covered before. I like the way he puts decks together. Yeah, this is a really interesting one. There's a few cards I actually have in my binder that I was like, oh, I thought that would go up in value. Force Fruition. It was sitting under $1 for ages, and then all of a sudden it's like up at around $10. I'm like, I knew it. I actually have 2 of them in my binder, so. Star cards. So this deck isn't super expensive. I said by Commander standards, $225 is not that bad, but yeah. To cut the cost down further really makes it not the same deck anymore. Group Hug is a surprisingly pricey theme. This deck wants to let opponents draw cards most of all. It gives them chances to play extra lands and get more mana as well, but the main thing is about getting them just drawing cards. And hopefully they just, get their whole deck drawn that way, and that's how they lose. Yeah, this deck has a lot of ways to protect you and create political advantage as well. This is very big on like politicking, which is something I don't get to see enough of, I think. So protection. First up, propaganda. They gotta pay 2 extra mana anytime they attack you with a creature. Especially in a multiplayer. If it's like, I can attack the other person, not spend mana, and I have to attack you and it costs mana, I'm gonna attack the other person. Ghostly Prison. Pretty much the same thing, but in white. Perch Protection. Okay. So this is 4 white, and it says is an instant, gift an extra turn. Oh boy. Oh boy. Sounds like a terrible idea, right? But let's see. You create 4 2/2 bird creature tokens with flying. Yeah. If the gift was promised, all permanents you control phase out, and until your next turn, your life total can't change. You gain protection from everything. Yeah, your life total can't change, and you have protection from everything until next turn. Until your next turn. Until your next turn. That makes more sense. So, oh boy. That is huge. It costs 6 is the downside, but what an upside, right? You're going to give someone else basically license to like take over the game, and you're going to just peace out for like 1 round. Oh my. And then you have to exile it, unfortunately, so there's no graveyard shenanigans you can do with this. But Heroic Intervention. So 1 and a green for this instant. Everyone probably knows this one. Permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. The really good thing about this is that it says permanents. It's not creatures. It includes creatures, but also anything else, right? Enchantments, artifacts, anything. You need to save absolutely anything. This card can probably do it, right? Sphere of Safety. Okay. For 4 and a white, this is an enchantment. Creatures can't attack you or planeswalkers you control unless their controller pays X for each of those creatures, where X is the number of enchantments you control. So yeah, this is a real pillow fort card right here. So you're going to have like Propaganda, Ghostly Prison, maybe other enchantments, and then Sphere of Safety. So everything that attacks you is going to have to pay like 2, 2, and 3 extra. Yeah. Paying an extra 7 or just swing at someone else? What are they going to do? I wonder. Politics. Okay. Everybody lives. I actually misread this card the first time. It is everybody. It does mean everybody. It means all the creatures on the board, not just your creatures. So all creatures gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Players gain hexproof until end of turn. Players can't lose life this turn, and players can't lose the game or win the game until the end of this turn. So yeah, especially if you cast this during someone's first main phase. Basically, you're like, okay, you can't do anything to really like massively change the game here. I guess you could like give someone like put a left right a bunch of like infect tokens on someone. They still wouldn't lose the game until the beginning of the next turn, but it's not completely. It's really good still. Duelist Heritage. I actually covered this on a short recently. I love this one. I think I called it Oprah's double strike card because you get a double strike and you get anyway. Yeah, you get it. 2 and a white for this enchantment. Whenever one or more creatures attack, you may have target attacking creature gain double strike until end of turn. It only says when creature attacks, not your creature, right? So this can be anyone's. This is really great for like encouraging people to like hit each other and be like, oh, I'll give you a double strike if you hit someone else. There you go. Especially if you use it on someone's commander, then you're gonna get into that one hit popping them out of the game commander damage type of territory pretty quickly. Giaper Ori. I feel like I can't say that word right. 4 mana for this artifact. Each player plays an additional land on each of their turns, so everyone gets to play an extra land. We also have an enchantment that does this as well. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player has no cards left in hand. They draw 3 cards. So really just keeping everyone moving in the game. This is like such a maybe one of the prime group hug cards, and this one's actually pretty cheap. I think this is under $1. Council's Judgment. So we got 1 white. I love this one as well. Will of the Council. Starting with you, each player votes for a non-land permanent you don't control. Don't is a very important thing there. Exile each permanent with the most votes or tied for the most votes. So basically everyone will go and choose a different vote or vote for a different thing. And yeah, a person, if they're the player that maybe gets 2 of their things chosen, will hopefully choose one of their own things, and then that doesn't get exiled. So only one thing gets exiled, but they might be really petty and choose someone else's thing. So you can probably only exile one thing, but possibly 3. Especially if your opponents are getting upset at each other, maybe take advantage of that. Hive Mind. 5 and a blue. For this enchantment, whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell, each other player copies that spell. Each of those spells may choose a new targets for his or her copy. This gets huge because there's a whole bunch of tempt with cards. He's got almost the whole cycle. He's got all 4 colors you can get in. So yeah, really, really useful. And those are going to have all kinds of benefits for one player and downsides for other players. Well, again, if they choose to accept it, there is an upside, but also a downside in that it's help. Yeah, it does more for the other player. The plan. Okay, how does this deck play? Step 1, ramping fishing every time. Step 2, 1 for you. So a lot of it is just giving people those cards. Again, there's going to be so much card draw for everyone. Getting through their deck is not going to take a lot extra, I think. Finally, win cons. These are very different win cons that I usually have, so I think it's interesting. It's definitely a departure for me to see. Collective Voyage. So starting with you, each player may pay any amount of mana. Each player searches his or her library for up to X basic land cards, where X is the total amount of mana paid this way. Put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle his or her library. So you're just giving everyone crazy ramp here. And card draw, right? So everyone can just have this huge ramp and just whole bunch of card draw. So you're giving everyone what they want the whole time. That is group hug right there. That is some group hug. Root Reaver Druid for 2 and a green. This is a 2/1. So when it enters the battlefield, each opponent may search the library for up to 3 basic land cards. They each put one of those cards onto the battlefield tapped under your control. and the rest on the battlefield tapped into their control. So they pick 3, they give you 1, and they keep 2 for themselves, and they all go in tapped. So I've tried to use this before, and people were just like, no. It's like, oh yeah, that's not surprising. Dang. But yeah, hopefully you can get people at least like kind of, especially if they've got lots of card draw, they might be more inclined to be like, oh yeah, I need that land, I need that land. So yeah. Here we go. Decanter of Endless Water for 3 mana. This is an artifact. You have no maximum hand size. No maximum hand size is very, very important in this deck. Test for 1 mana of any color. Hey, that's nice too, right? For color, some mana fixing. Dictate of Karamitra. 3 green. It has flash, and whenever a player taps a land for mana, that player adds 1 mana to his or her mana pool of any type that land produced. So double mana for everyone. Yeah, especially if they're doing like Root Weaver or Collective Voyage. Especially playing this first and then Root Weaver is probably the way to do it. To get them really interested in getting those lands. Miko Koro? Isn't that the name? No. I'm getting confused with the name of, what was it? Yeah, never mind. Center of the Sea, legendary land. Tap for a colorless. But pay 2, tap it, each player draws a card. Forcing card draw with land is really, really good in this deck. Also, that one is for like $3. I've got one of those as well. Mind's Aglow for 1 blue. This is a sorcery. Starting with you, each player may pay any amount of mana. Each player draws X cards, where X is the total amount of mana paid this way. So yeah. Each player has to, I'm pretty sure even if they don't pay mana, they do have to like still draw the cards. So yeah, you can really force them into something here. Selvala, Explorer returned. We got 1 and green-white, Selesnya, Parlay. So you tap her, each player reveals the top card of their library. For each non-land card revealed this way, you add a green and gain 1 life, then each player draws a card. So basically everyone's going to get a card draw, they reveal the card, and then you're going to get extra mana and life out of that as well. So more useful for you probably, but yeah. And Heartwood, Storyteller, we've got 1 green. For this tree folk, whenever a player plays a non-creature spell, that each of those players' opponents may draw a card. So every time anyone casts something that is not a creature, there's going to just be card draw. It's going to add up fast. Queen Iterant, Meddler. I feel like I can't say that as well. Whites and a blue for this Rabbit Wizard 1/3. Tap. Each player may draw a card, then each player who drew a card gains 1 life. Again, it does give them the option, right? So there's kind of the downside there, is that this is optional, but hey. Font of Mythos for 4. This is an artifact. Oh boy. At the beginning of each player's draw step, the player draws an extra 2 cards. 2 additional cards every single turn. So drawing 3 per turn. And we also got things like Forced Fruition, which are just going to like keep them drawing. It is going to get out of hand. No pun intended. Win con number 1. Again, we got Jace and Laboratory Maniac. Draw out your deck, you win the game. Basically the idea there. Not hard to do, I think. Not super easy, but not terribly difficult. Win con number 2, Reigns of Power. Untap all creatures you control and all creatures target opponent controls. You and that opponent gain control of all each other's until end of turn. Those creatures gain haste. So basically you let someone else build up this huge advantage. You help them do it, and then you steal their stuff, and you switch it with yours. Yeah, that'll do. Oh, sorry, one last thing. This is more of a 1v1. He did specify in his primer that this is more of like a finisher for a 1v1. Once you've taken out the competition, you can use this to like kind of finish him. I guess maybe finisher is better than win con, but whatever. Force Fruition. I was just talking about this one. For blue, an enchantment. Whenever an opponent plays a spell, that player draws 7 cards. Again, you're just loading them up with mana, giving them all the cards they need, and then they're just going to like keep casting. So they've got to really be careful and say like, oh, when do I want to like draw? And I can only play so many spells before I run out of cards. So it's kind of worse than like making every spell they cast make them lose like 3 life or something. I think this actually hurts more because life you can get back. Cards in your deck, well, I guess you can, but not easily. Win con number 4, Folio of Fancies. Again, this is almost very similar, right? Players have no maximum hand size. Each player draws X cards, so you can XX and tap or pay 2 and a blue. Each opponent puts a number of cards equal to the number of cards in their hand on top, from the top of their library into their graveyard. Just huge mill. Oh my. Suggestions, okay? So I didn't make any alterations to this deck list, but here I'm going to go over some budget options that I think actually can enhance it a lot. These are intended to follow the same general uses of the deck while saving a buck or two. Budget, yeah. Budget things that I think it really can even be better. So we're looking at the Heroic Intervention. First of all, a tough one to try and substitute. My suggestion, I'd say, is not quite as good, but it gives flexibility that this doesn't have. Dreamtide Whale. Again, that's 2 and a blue. It has Vanishing 2. Whenever a player casts their second spell each turn, Proliferate. It does give a lot of extra Proliferate, and usually in a Atraxa deck, this would be a great addition. I think it doesn't do much in this deck. We don't really care Proliferate, but we are going to find something else that does work nicely with Atraxa. And we have Orzhov Advocist. For 2 and a white, is a 1/4. At the beginning of your upkeep, each player may put 2+1/+1 counters on a creature they control. If a player does that, creatures that player controls can't attack you or a planeswalker you control until the next turn. This is a nice political card, sure. They can always just not do it, and then they're free to attack you. So, I don't know. I feel like we can do something else. This is kind of a tough cut. I think it does fit in the deck nicely, but yeah, we're going to see what we can do. Heroic Intervention. I want to change with your temples under attack. This gives your creatures permanent... Your creatures indestructible until end of turn, or it's modal. You and target opponent each draw 2 cards. Again, it does not say may. They just have to draw 2 cards. This might be like that little shove you need to get someone out of the game. So yeah. Forced card draw is really nice in this deck. So I think this is, even though Heroic Intervention is just amazing, this might do the job you need it to and a little bit extra. Dreamtide Whale. For Azuri Stalker Spheres, the main thing, when Azuri comes in, you can get 2 of those proliferates for 2 mana. Also, every time you proliferate, draw a card. So if Atraxa is out, every turn you just automatically draw an extra card. Especially if you want to try and get to that, drawing out your whole deck thing. 1 extra card per turn may not sound like a lot, but it will add up. Orzhov Advocist. Again, switch with Infernal Offering. So we got 4 and a black for this sorcery. Choose an opponent. You and that player each sacrifice a creature. Players who sacrifice creature this way may draw 2. Draw 2 cards. Again, they do have to draw the cards and they have to sacrifice. You have to sacrifice as well, and you get to draw 2 cards. Probably better for you. And choose an opponent. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So you could just sacrifice that creature and then put it back, right? Then that player may return a creature card from their graveyard to the battlefield. So this is just helping out someone. It is expensive, right? 4 and a black is not cheap, but this is actually quite good, I think. It'll get some work done and can be that kind of like goodwill political thing. Final thought. So this is an interesting deck that can that I would like to see in action. Again, I always see the deck list and I'm like, yeah, that sounds really cool. I really wish I could see this get played. I think this more than any other one I've covered before. I think having a scary commander as the head does a double service here, providing a color identity and what is essentially a distraction, right? I think as long as Atraxa is sitting in just chilling in the command zone, people are going to go like, oh, everything's fine. Atraxa is in the command zone. No worries. And that just gives you like license to like pretty much take over the board with your group hug strategy. Yeah, I think it's almost like a fake out commander. I love it. Opponents may assume that if she has an out, all is well. Exactly, yeah. I think I probably would say that. Yeah, this is a great combination with the group hug theme. Again, group hug plus like, yeah, scary commander that's just going to stay in the command zone. Very nice little combination. Anyway, take it easy.